Coach Angeline Wimbush, and I am the host of PS10 Radio. I am coming on today, and I am very excited. I'm going to be interviewing the author of this book, From Rags to Redemption. And something very special that you may not know is that the author of this book, who is Patrick McKenzie, is also my brother. So welcome to this personal conversation, and leave us comments. Tell us what you think. And, what do you think? Get the book from Amazon, and let's get into it. All right, so today I have my big brother, Patrick McKenzie. You know what, Patrick? I don't know your middle name.
Lynn.
Lynn?
Yep,
Patrick Lynn
Lynn
McKenzie. Uh-oh,
Yep.
Patrick Lynn. No,
Yes, I got the
saying it all the time.
the whole Irish, Scottish thing. Patrick Lynn McKenzie.
Is that what it is? Wow.
That's it.
St.
That's
Patrick.
the whole
Yo, wow.
thing.
Wow, what a blessing. And we're going to be talking with him about his debut book, From Rags to Redemption. Only God can bring us from the gutter to the glory. And a little bit, about just what's going on with him right now. So welcome, Patrick, to my space.
Thank you for having me in your space.
Yes, we've been talking about this for how long? A long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Finally got me on, finally found time for me.
Yes. And I feel like between, if it wasn't, you were busy and then I was busy and we had to mesh our schedules together. And I feel like that's been our story, but
Yes.
We'll get on that later. But I guess one of the things that I wanted to get from you is just like, what made you write a book anyways?
I've always wanted to write a book. I guess ever since I was in the fifth grade, we had this opportunity in fifth grade to do write a book for some type of a contest. So I wrote a little something I made up, and it felt good. And so I always said that I'm going to do an autobiography from the fifth grade on. And so I think from then I just started developing a story that I could write about, not intentionally, but things just happen that way. So what made me really want to write this particular book was because of all of the things that I had been through or had gone through in my life. And I knew that it was a story that needed to be told, that needed to be shared, because I know a lot of people have probably face these types of decision-making challenges in their lives. And so I wanted to let them know that just because you make the wrong decision the first time, it's not over. God always give you another chance. And I think in the book I said, I serve a God of another chance instead of a second chance, because I blew my second chance a long, long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, God gives you plenty of chances. One thing about it, though, whenever you take the wrong turn, God will take you back to that beginning point and see which turn you're going to take this time. So at least that's my story.
Okay, yeah. Reading the book, I saw at first, it's being your little sister, and not knowing, I really didn't know a lot about your background at all. And when I started reading the book, you know, the first couple things I was like, oh, okay. And then he turned his life around. And I was like, oh, okay, the next one, he'll turn his life around. And I was like, okay, maybe this the time that he gonna turn his life around. It just kind of kept me going. And I was just like, okay. And at first I was like, oh, I'm gonna span over, because I'm a slow reader. And I'll just span over, this month of July to go over his book and everything. But it only took me like it took me a couple weeks, but it still, was shorter than what I thought because I was just like, well, when he gonna turn his life around?
Get it right.
Yeah, so I was wondering, like, because me and my husband were talking, I was just cluing him in on things as I read, but
Uh,
he was like, he's like, he probably in big trouble for telling everybody everything that happened. So what was what was the reception from people that you wrote about in your book, after they learned about it?
Everybody was very receptive to it. They just didn't know, for the most part, people didn't know that they played such a major role in some of the things that was going on in my life. So they kind of, they kind of looked at it as some of it, the stuff they didn't remember. Like, you still remember that, and stuff like that. But and like I said in the book, it's not a tell-all story because there's lots more to tell. But this is just
Right.
the journey that God took me on that related to those turnarounds that I had to face as God was dealing with me throughout my journey into the ministry. So I wanted to pull those things out and just kind of put everything on what God can do. So that was kind of the basis for it. And so people who I talked about were very receptive. We're past the statute of limitations, so nobody's going to get in trouble. So
I hope.
yeah. Unless it's something federal, then maybe. But nah, I think we're good. But yeah, they were very receptive. My uncles and lots of friends called me and was like, man, I didn't know that, it's because it seems just like something that's so insignificant. You get in trouble, you think, there's nothing to it, but it's very impactful. Like, those things that you
Right.
find insignificant can turn very significant at the drop of a hat. So I just thank God that it didn't go any further than it did. I just had to deal with it at that level and not take it to any other level where I had to hold myself and others accountable for the decisions that were made.
Right. Yeah. That's so true because there are oftentimes where things happen and we think, nobody remember this,
Yeah.
or this doesn't matter or mean anything. Might not mean anything to you. You
Right.
might not want to remember it, but someone else, it may impact them a different way. And so these are just different glimpses of situations that happened that impacted you to lead you where you were.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like when you saying that, it was a lot of things that, they weren't happy times. They weren't things like great, but it's kind of like you took the memories of the negative moments or the life-changing moments or the near, you know, the end of your path moments to point out so that you could shine the light back to God. And that tell me when tell me more or share a little bit more with the audience, just like what led you to be saved.
Well, to be honest, I ran from it for a long time. There was, growing up, I didn't really go to church a lot. If we did go to church, we would come in and wait till the coast was clear, then we'd leave and go out and have a blast and then come back like for my grandparents to pick me up, and like we just had an awesome time at church or whatever. But it wasn't until I think I came to Oklahoma for the summer. One summer, I was in the sixth grade. I came to Oklahoma to stay with my mom for the summer. And while I was here in Oklahoma, my mom's best friend and cousin, so they were, best cousins or whatever you want to call it, she was murdered. And so I think that's what drove my mom to go to church. And so she took me with her that whole summer. And so when I came back home, it made me a little bit different. You know, when I came back to went back to Michigan, it made me a little bit different, but not enough to really, you know, change me. But I was aware that there may be this higher power out there that, you know, that can do something significant or something miraculous in your life. And I, you know, I didn't have a bad life. I'm not saying that, you know, things were just horrible. Uh, but, you know, you're always looking for something. You know, 12 years old, you're trying to figure it out.
Mhm.
So I think I remember at one point, maybe that seventh grade year, I ran into this guy and he was a Muslim and he was just preaching one day. You know how they used to come to your house and,
Yeah.
you know, knock on your door or whatever and be preaching and stuff. So I used to mock him with, you know, my friends and all of that. You know, we'd be at the park or doing whatever we're doing, and out of nowhere, I just start mocking this dude, like, yo, blah, 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 blah. And somewhere that kind of, and every time, and it's funny because every time I did something wrong, I would always say, well, God forgive me, you know, whatever.
Okay, so you knew he
I
was
had
out
gotten
there
that.
somewhere.
Yeah. I had gotten that from, the Lord will forgive you. So that stuck with me. And then probably, you know, once I got, maybe just say out of high school, 13, probably about 17, 18, 19, somewhere in there, um, I just felt that there was something that I was supposed to do that I wasn't doing. And it never hit me until, you know, in the story, I tell how I was on I was getting ready to turn 25 and a couple of friends and I, we were getting ready to go do our thing. And we, I, you know, was getting high and something happened. And that was it. Um, you know, of course, the story tells you how I went into a circle, uh, left the hospital, tried to leave out of the hospital and walk. Wasn't familiar with the area, so I ended up right back at the hospital. And so that, you
Yes.
know,
And you know what? That was God.
yes, it was like you're right back where you started. And so my life after that, every time I did something that was away from what God wanted me to do, I went right back from it. I always said, here I am, I'm right back at this place again without even recognizing. So, you know, I had this vision of me preaching and, um, you know, having an audience, and my mom was in the audience, and this was very vivid. I could hear the sounds of clapping, and I looked up at this monitor and I saw myself up there preaching. And so, being in that state, you know, I was like, I told the doctors or whatever, I snatched off all the monitoring equipment or whatever it was. And I said, they were like, where are you going? And I was like, I got to go be this preacher that God is calling me to be. And so,
Wow.
but I said that. And then the next day I was like, you know, that was a crazy dream. I thought it was a whole dream. But the only way I knew it was real is because I still had the hospital band on when I woke up.
Wow.
And so
Hmm.
that kind of stuck with me, but still didn't submit to it. It took me years and years and years. Um, but how I got saved, it was just, you know, out of that moment, I was like, God has something for me. And I remember when I got my first apartment, I sat in the middle of the floor and I said, God, if you have something for me and if you're real, I submit myself to you. Um, and I did in that. But even though I did that, I was still had my feet in the world. But
Hmm.
you know, I took that first step, and then that's when you have to be careful when you ask God to come into your life, because it's, God's gonna come in.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, that half in, half out.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
So, what did you, now, since you had all this criminal activity going on, did you have to get that expunged at some time?
I did. And the funny part about, they don't tell you, when you get your record expunged, the arrest still stays on your record. So it does show
I
that you
didn't
have been
know
arrested.
that.
Yeah. And so there's a whole different process or something that you have to go through. But that's part of my story. So I've never pursued it. But as long as the other stuff is taken care of, the arrest record isn't, it's not that big of a factor. I still have to answer for it every now and then. When so for instance, when I was doing insurance, they do a thorough background check. And so those things will come up. It'll say, you've been arrested in Missouri, you've been arrested in Michigan, blah, blah, blah. And so I would contact those states, and they'll just say, there's this person was arrested, and that was it. Nothing came up out of it, or it has been dropped, the case has been dropped, stuff like that. So then I can complete whatever process I was going through. uh, but that's part of my story, and I think that's something that um, keeps it real for me, to keeps me grounded. And so whenever someone comes and taps me on the shoulder and say, hey, this is what you've been through, then I can give God the glory again and say, you know what? Yeah, I've been through that, but look what God has done for me now. So
Yeah, and it
that's
hasn't
kind of,
stopped you.
absolutely. And
Yeah, it hasn't stopped you.
that's why I always say that there can't nobody tell me that there is no God, and no one can tell me what God is not able to do. So I keep
Hmm.
that on my record for that case, for that reason.
Right, yeah. And I like how you said that. That's a part of your story. It's like the blueprint, and
Yeah,
it gives you, credibility, especially with
absolutely.
the maybe with people. I mean, maybe God has it in place like that for you for a reason, for you to be able to touch, a young gentleman or something like that, or a young lady who needs to know that, this stuff stays on your record,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and it's still on mine,
It's
and
still
this
there. Yeah,
XYZ. Yeah.
yes.
Our testimonies are so important, not just for us, but for other people. And
Yeah,
that's why it is important that you have it down on paper now. It's in the bookstore, it's
absolutely.
online. Yes. Yeah, I love it. And you know what, Big Brother, I have also always been into writing. I think I was like, I mean, I was young too, but I remember in seventh grade, one of my closest cousins, we were in school together, and we used to just pass a notebook back and forth all day. Like people are passing notes, we were passing a big old notebook full of all these stories we done wrote when we supposed to be doing our work. So,
Right.
yeah. So I just think that's a beautiful thing. Is to for me, it's very fulfilling to actually be able to publish something that I've written, and it's a blessing that you were actually able to do what you were called to do, which is right.
Yeah. And and I can say this, as I mean, as my sister, we not growing up together, it just shows how powerful, the indirect DNA that you have. Because all of the stuff that you, I, Chauncey and Ruben, we have this story that's so intertwined. It's like, if you really if you were to just put all of us together, and we kind of share the things that we do, and it would almost be like we grew up in the same house.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that, in the book. I was like, it's like my father didn't impact me directly, but indirectly, I can see how it is because now that I am getting to know my siblings, it's like it's like we were just there together growing up.
Yeah. Yeah, let's get into it because I think that's one of the most important for me. I'm a little selfish that I felt like because I loved learning about how you grew up and everything. But I hope I don't get choked up during this. I didn't bring
Well,
no,
it's okay.
no,
It's
look,
okay.
look, look, wait a minute. But um, just the fact, like you said, I mean, I love being, I'm a little sister. No
Yeah,
matter what order anybody's in, I'm always the youngest.
yeah,
I,
yeah.
you know, and it's a blessing.
Yeah.
And I love it. So, but let's get talk right quick how we, because you and I were the first ones to meet. Let's talk right quick about that interaction because um I'll start off because I was recalling this earlier today and I was like, it was a work day for me and I had professional development all day. So I was at lunch at Panera Bread with my friend from work and we were talking and laughing and stuff. And then my mom's friend just kept calling my phone. And I knew that, my dad was sick and everything. So I was like, well, let me answer this. Because first I wasn't going to, because I was like, I'm at work. What is the
Right,
problem? Call me after. So now I was like, okay, let me answer. So I'm up here with my friend. And then she's like, you better get to the hospital. Some man said that he your daddy's son and he's trying to get y'all inheritance and everything. And I was like, what? Huh? What's going on? I was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? You need to get up to the hospital. Click. I was like, girl, I got to go. I said, I have a family emergency. I got to go. So I didn't even go back to work. I tried to go over to the hospital. Of course, I'm far away from where my dad was. By the time I get there, y'all gone. So, but yeah, so what was share
that's
what your
very
account?
interesting because you never know what's going on on the other, on the other side of it. So here's how it all started for me. My mom, so Linda. So
My
that's
auntie Linda.
her, uh,
My
yes,
auntie
Auntie
Linda.
Linda. And so it's funny because she's my cousin, and she was
Mm.
married to Dad's brother,
Uncle
Eugene.
Gene. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how that all started. So she always kind of kept me in the loop a little bit. And
Okay.
then so at one point she told my mom and she told my mom that RJ was very sick and he wanted his children by his side or whatever. And so
Mm-hmm.
she was like, you need to get there. So, I was like, by this time I was 42, even though on the inside that little boy still wanted to meet his dad, I was like, man,
Yeah.
I ain't going down there. I don't want to see this dude on his deathbed, whatever. So I was um, very, I guess I would say I was very firm about it. And so I talked to a couple of friends about it, and somehow, some way, God softened my heart. And the funny thing about it is I had an airline credit. So I was like, I booked the flight or whatever. This would be, before they stopped all that stuff. But
Yeah.
I booked the flight, uh, into, wherever. I can't remember where I flew into. I think I flew into Chicago or something and drove home or something like I normally do. And then so I was like, so that was my main reason. So I stopped in South Haven to, just kind of get my bearings together, be around some
Familiar
familiar.
ground. Right.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then, my uncle was like, my uncle Tonky, he was like, man, sorry to hear about your father. And I was like, wow. So that next day I drove up to the hospital. Linda told me where it was, uh, drove up there and went in. And so when I went in, I saw your mom standing, sitting by his bedside or whatever. And she was like, hey, how you doing? And I said, hey, how are you? She was like, and now who are you? I said, my name is Patrick McKenzie. And she was like, oh, okay. And then, it got weird because I was like, well, I have to tell why I'm here. And so I said, well, my name is Patrick McKenzie and I am RJ's son. And, there was no tripping, no nothing. She just said,
Yeah.
oh, okay. And she went over there, she said, well, come on in, son. And, went over there and, kind of tapped RJ on the shoulder or whatever. And she asked him the question. She said, do you know who this is? And he looked at me and he said, yeah, he said Carlos or something like that. He was like, yeah, that's Carlos. And she said, no. And she said, no, tell him who you are, son. And I said, I'm Patrick McKenzie. I'm Gene McKenzie's son. Do you remember Gene McKenzie? And he put his head down for a little bit, just for a little bit. It seemed like 30 seconds, but it probably wasn't that long, but it was long enough to where, he put his head back up and he said, I'm sorry. And so I said, well, what are you sorry for? He said, well, I'm sorry that I didn't see you and, come and hang out with you or whatever like that. And I said, you know what? There's no need to apologize. We have today forward or whatever. And so, we started talking and, talked about some stuff. I told him about the kids and that I was living in Dallas at the time. And, so we had a nice general conversation, getting to know each other. And then, he kind of got a little tired and went to sleep or whatever. So then that's when your mom did one of the greatest gestures to me that she could have done being put in that type of a situation. She was like, hey, let's go for a ride. And so she took me by the house, took me by some familiar little places. And she was like, this is this and this is that and blah, blah, blah. And she then she said, well, if I would have known, we would have come to see you or whatever. So it made me, it let me know that I made the right decision. And so then,
Yes.
I stayed there so I came back the next couple of days. I stayed and visited for the 3 days that I was in town. Then I flew back home. And then that's when I got the call from you.
I was like, hello. I didn't know what to do either.
Yeah,
I
it
wanted
was.
to know like how legit this was. So I'm calling
Yes.
Chauncey, I'm calling Ruben. We all da, 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 da. Then finally Ruben says, well, I do remember
Right.
when I was 10 and I was visiting grandma one summer and I was playing at the park with all the kids and he's like, I do remember somebody coming up to us saying, that's your brother, right? And he was like, being 10, he like, oh, whatever. And y'all just kept
Right, right,
playing. But so it was never addressed. And
right.
so he's like, I guess I do recall maybe knowing about this before. Cause I was like, how does nobody know? But then come to find out, everybody knew but me. No, everybody knew
No,
but us, really.
right, right. And that was crazy because everybody knew, like everybody, they would come to me and be like, man, you look just like your dad, man. And I'm like,
You
what?
do. It's funny. It's so funny how because at first, you know, I hadn't seen you or anything. So,
uh,
me and your sister-in-law Tori, we talking on the
yeah,
phone. We like, girl, da, 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 da. But as soon as we saw you, we was like, oh yeah, dad's genes, because my dad's genes are strong. So
yes, yes.
I know, oh,
And
no,
that
we
was
look
the
alike.
thing. Because I remember sending you some pictures because we talked on the phone and there was still a lot of skepticism. So we talked because I talked about Aunt Von and I talked Aunt Vi, I'm sorry,
Yeah, I'm
Aunt
Vi
Viola. I
and
talked
Gert.
about her and Aunt Gert. And
Yeah.
they would come get me and hang out with me and talk to me. And even Uncle Eugene would come pick me up, take me to go buy toys, all kinds of stuff. It was crazy.
Wow.
So I knew all of them. And then but it just, I don't know how it never just gelled together, because everybody was like, man, this, you look just like this guy. You look just, man,
Yes.
y'all look just alike. And so because I got some pictures, I think you sent some pictures, and then I was supposed to send some pictures in exchange or whatever. So I was looking and I saw Ruben and I was like, wow. Like, man, this is crazy. So I sent the pictures, but they didn't come through. And then that's when you was like, yeah, right. He don't want to send no pictures. I don't
Right.
know.
I like, we don't know.
And I just finally, if they finally, I sent some, came through, and you called me and you was like, yeah.
Yeah.
You was like,
I was
yeah,
like,
you our
yep, you
brother,
one of
Daz.
you my brother. And
And
I
so we
loved it.
just
I
started,
embraced it right
we
away.
started talking, and everybody got on board. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
once we talked on the phone, I could hear the skepticism was gone.
Yeah.
And because
Was it that obvious?
Chauncey was really skeptical. Chauncey was like, nah. He was like, well, when's the last time you talked? Because, they had died, but he was trying to see, now, when's the last time you talked to him? Because they've been
Yeah,
dead
yeah,
for a
yeah.
little while.
Right. It's in last year, no.
Yeah, he's trying to find out. I was cracking up. And so, but I never knew, the other end was like, he's trying to take your inheritance. That was the last thing on my mind.
Oh my,
I wasn't
but you
thinking
know
about
what? That
anything.
was my mom's friend saying that to me.
Uh-huh.
So so who knows where she got that from? She probably
Right,
just
right.
heard my mom say something about it and was like, "Oh, I know what he came back for." You know what I mean? Who knows?
Like,
But
that's how it
yeah,
goes. I was like,
yeah,
nah,
and there was
I
no
know nothing
inheritance,
about that.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think
That's
me
how
and my
they
best friend cleaned out the house, Patrick, because my dad worked for Myers for years, for 30
yeah,
years, and he had
yeah.
pension, everything for me. I was like, "Ain't no way you work for Myers and had no life insurance." But
Right.
I will say, my dad got sick in 2016, and when after everything happened, and I start going through, being the only one in my city, and I start going through um, my parents' home, all the bills start piling up in 2016. So
Right.
I'm pretty sure he stopped paying on whatever he had. He stopped paying on it, and so it was nothing. So yeah, it was nothing but debt left behind, which I know that's not how my dad raised us. And so I know that was not his intention. I just think the illness just it hit him, from
Yeah,
left
yeah.
field. But I totally embraced it. Like I said, maybe it's because I'm the little sister, but no, but my brothers, they embraced it too. But
Yeah.
we had no
I
problem
mean,
with it.
yeah, we just went, and then after that, once I wasn't able to get back to Michigan before he passed, but we still, we, as you and I and your mom and Chauncey and Ruben, we began to keep in touch and talk to each other about things. And that's when you told me, I remember I was sitting in the house and you called me and you told me, well, at first your mom called me and said that he had passed away. And then when I talked to you, because I called you, and you said, yeah, and he hadn't talked in 3 months. And
He
so
didn't.
that made me think, like, if I would have waited, 2 or 3 days later, if
Yeah.
God wouldn't have dealt with me at that moment and I
Hmm.
submitted to it, he wouldn't have talked. So I never would have gotten that apology.
Right. Yeah.
So that was very big for me when you told me that. You was like, yeah, he never talked after you talked to him. He never said anything else.
Hmm.
And I was
And
like,
now,
wow,
how much did that apology mean to you?
it meant the world to me. Um, it made me, I can say that now it made me the person that I am now, because and in the book I tell about this recurring dream that I had, where I was a child with two suitcases full of stuff, and I was waiting on an elevator. The elevator never came, and the staircase, it was just the stairs were damaged, broken. I couldn't get down. So, once I talked to a dream interpreter and just praying about it and getting my own interpretation of that dream, I was a child stuck in my childhood, and I was waiting on something to come rescue me, but it was never going to come, because if my dad would have, and this is me talking to myself, if my dad, if I would have never had the chance to meet my dad like I wanted to in my childhood, that's where I would be. And I would still be the angry adult that I am now, that I was at that
Wow.
particular time. So
Wow.
once I went and met RJ, I never had that dream again. That dream was
Really?
gone. Yeah.
Wow. Because it was
It just
satisfied.
opened up everything.
Mhm.
And the problem, well, it's not the problem, it's the fact of that matter is, even though I was angry, I still had hope that I would meet him because he was still alive. So but if he would have passed before I got to meet him, there was nothing to dampen that anger. So I would
Mhm.
still be angry.
Yeah.
But once that happened, it changed my whole life.
What
And
a release.
now, and it's funny, Angeline, it's funny because about maybe a month after that, after he passed and we went to the funeral and all of that, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was like, something, she said there was something about dads or whatever. And I was like, yeah, my dad passed away. And it was crazy because she said, your dad? I was like,
Wow.
but just think, I never would
Yeah.
have been in that club if I never
To
would have
say
did
I
that.
knew. Yeah, to say I knew who
Yeah,
he
I was
was.
like,
And yeah.
yeah, I can
Mhm.
honestly say, yeah, I met him before he passed away. So yeah, I knew my dad. It was crazy though. She was like, your dad? Like
Yeah.
all brothers don't know their dads.
And you were able to get some level of forgiveness so that you could
Yes,
release yourself from that
absolutely.
burden and let the little boy can let go of them bags.
Yes, let go of that luggage. I was
Yes.
carrying all that luggage with
Yes.
me, man. That weight of that, because it was a after a while it became a topic that you couldn't talk about around me.
Oh
Don't ask me who
wow.
my dad is,
Don't talk about
because it was
dads.
funny. Because one time I was in school, so my last name is McKenzie, from my grandparents. My mom was McKenzie, but then my mom got married, so her name became Sims. So I was McKenzie, my mom was Sims, and I knew that my dad's name was RJ Williams. So I would always do that, and they'd be like, "Damn, you got a lot of last, like your last name don't match none of your." So you feel like an orphan.
Oh, okay. I
So
never
then
thought
that
of it
became a
like that.
no, but that's how it was. And so
Hmm.
I would be, so then that once that hit the fan, it was like, nah, don't talk, we can't talk about that, because then
Yeah,
it's
it's
gonna be some trouble.
complicated. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I guess I never even really thought about that. And I will say I was pretty sheltered. I knew nothing. My even my mom's side of the family, well, South Haven is it's a small city. When they grew up, at the
absolutely.
time they grew up,
Mhm.
everybody knew each other. Everybody was kicking it with one another. So
Yes,
so that's why
yes.
we related more than one way. Yeah. um,
Absolutely.
So my mom's family, they all knew. They were like, "Oh yeah, oh finally, you can talk about him."
Yeah.
Oh
And
wow,
is that not crazy?
it's crazy. I'm like,
Like
but I was
finally,
grown,
like,
grown. Like I
yeah,
was in my 30s.
yeah. Like,
And
I
y'all
don't
was gonna keep it.
understand.
Y'all was gonna take this to the grave.
They
Not,
were
and let you walk around thinking you're the only child.
the only. Yeah, they'll be like, you got a brother. And then you be like,
Sister.
huh? So I knew about you guys. I
Yeah.
really did. I
But
knew about.
but I knew nothing about you. I think
Yeah,
Ruben had
and so
a
the
thought.
yes, the funny thing is, I didn't know about you. The only thing I knew about Ruben and Chauncey, and then I knew about a sister that passed.
Yes, Tawana.
Yes, that's all I knew. I didn't know about you. So when you were calling me, I was like, okay, I was like, but I thought that she was dead. But telling me a story. Not you personally, but the
Oh,
only daughter I knew about was the one that passed away.
like, she's
So I was like, well,
dead.
that's a piece of bad information
Oh
that I
my
got.
gosh. No, no,
Yeah.
no. It was Tawana. Yeah. She was born, stillborn. So
Okay.
she didn't actually, I mean, I don't know. I was came after her. So
Okay. So
yeah.
yeah. So that's
Yeah.
where the story ended for me. Nobody ever said, "Oh, you
Okay.
got a sister named Angeline."
So they just stopped
So, but
keeping you
everybody, the
posted.
Cunninghams, yeah, yeah, because Fred Lee would always, kind of keep me posted.
Yeah.
Linda, and then when Uncle Eugene passed,
Hmm.
that was kind of, and then once I moved to Oklahoma, so I lost contact with Aunt Vi, and then before they passed, Aunt
Okay.
Gert, before they passed, I had lost contact with them, but there was always, every time I came to town, what is Aunt Vi's son? Michael.
Advice. Oh,
Michael.
Michael and Marie. Yeah.
So Michael would always come around and see me.
Hmm.
I'll be like, man, how did you even know I was in town?
Yeah.
He would always catch up with me, and always he embraced me, man.
Hmm.
He loved on me, just because. He was
Yeah.
like, look, cuz, all the time. And before he passed away, that last time I was in town, he found out and came and saw me.
Oh,
I was
nice.
like, man, how you know I was in town? He said he saw somebody at the store, and they said I was in town. So he came out to my Aunt May's house and
Oh,
came and hung out with me for a few minutes. That was last time I saw him. But I mean,
yeah.
every time I was in
Hmm.
town, he would hear about it and come see me.
Wow,
So
it's a small world. Yeah,
yeah.
I love that for us as
Mhm.
a, family unit that we were able to do that. It's a lot of people I have no other people and friends that have had similar situations where they like, mm-mm, that ain't my daddy's kids. Like,
Right, right.
and they're not trying to even go there. Like they don't want to know them or anything. They don't want to meet them.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm so glad my heart was open because I was going through a lot at that time as well. Not only was my, dad sick, but then I was having some marital issues and my son was acting up. Like I had a lot of different things, stuff going on at work, and I had a lot of different things going on. So I could have been shut off, like I don't need nothing else. But for some reason, I was just like immediately, once I saw you, I saw you, okay, this is legit. I was like, I'm with it. I'm with it. I want this. I want to embrace him as my big brother. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I did that. I'm so glad my brothers were on board. I didn't have to convince nobody. We didn't have no secret meetings like you need
Right,
to start, we all was like, no, that's our brother. That's our brother. Like,
right,
um,
right.
and I do
Yeah.
feel like um, it does change my perspective of my dad a little,
Mhm.
um, because my dad was all up in the sauce. Like, he did everything with us. He did everything for us. Every grandchild he wanted with him all the time. Like just drop the kids off over here. Um,
Right.
so it does give me a little bit of heartbreak that you didn't get to experience that, but at the same time, I just think that everything even though we don't like it and it doesn't look pretty, it did happen for a reason. Um, I just think maybe, for all of us, we were at a good headspace where we were open to this.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Where if it
yeah,
would have
and I
happened
like
earlier, I don't know.
right. And that's the thing. The timing is always perfect. I say this to the church all the time. We operate on Chronos time, but God operates on Kairos time. And
Mhm.
Kairos means the perfect time. Because I think if we would have been, especially with the bravado of males in their 20s and 30s, it would have been something different. I believe.
Yeah.
Even like I said, because I was angry about it. I have even Johan. I remember one time we were at school and Johan came to school and was like, "Yo, I saw your dad this weekend," and that pissed me off. I
Oh,
mean, I'm like,
wow.
"What you mean you saw?" Like I was still here in the same place. So
Right.
and I think and knowing Johan, now that I know who Johan is for real, I'm like, he did that on purpose. Hey, he said that on purpose, man, to try
Right.
to hurt my feelings. but
Oh,
uh
man.
but yeah, but it was, and I think that, like I said, it was the perfect time because we had all, well, for me, I had gone through my healing process, and it was going to be for me. There was no anger. There would if you guys would not have embraced me, I would not have been angry about it. Um, you know, but I am so glad that everything worked out the way that it did, because now you guys get to see. I mean, and I don't know if the same is for you as it is for me, but like I said, indirectly, because I used to wonder, why am I this way? Why do I want to be in business? Like nobody in my immediate family that I know does the things that I want to do. So where does this come from? And then I meet
Mm.
Ruben, and Ruben is like, yeah, I had a asbestos business, all of this stuff, and the writing with you, and then
Yeah.
the wanting to be in education. I think of Chauncey,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like we have similar lifestyles, but we were so far
And
apart growing
yeah,
up.
different environment. And
Yeah.
Dad had he had a business name picked
Mhm.
out. I don't remember I remember what the acronym is, but I don't remember what it stands for. But did I share with you before what it was? No, it's Fibico. And I know it has something to do what for blacks, something like something investments for blacks,
Uh-huh.
something. It's for black people. It was
Right,
for
right, right.
um and so I mean, I know in recent years we've all, me, Ruben, and Chauncey have, and individually, we haven't all three talked together, but we were all like, man, we should do something with that. Cause Dad, that's what that, I mean, he had business cards, Fibico, President, Ruben J. Williams, Sr. He had all kind. I mean, when I was cleaning out his stuff, like I found all kinds of like notes he had on Fibico. Like he wanted to do something with that, but he just never got a chance. Biblical consultants is what it was. I don't know what he's going to consult on, but I mean, he was in corporate for Myers, so I'm sure he had a plethora of different ways he could have did it. But I
Absolutely.
always think like, how could we like use that? But yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's funny that you have that entrepreneur spirit, and I don't know where I got mine from because I'm an introvert. I like to I like to be in my own little box and don't nobody be knowing what I'm doing. I like to do things undercover. That's why I made my journals and workbooks and wrote my book and just slid it on Amazon like
Right,
and I
right,
like I wrote a book. I'm an author. That's just not me. I'm
right,
more humble than that.
right.
But yeah, so I don't know where it came from, but just like you said, it's just this natural thing. And I just like you, I just feel like it's a nagging, like I have to do it.
Yes, yes,
I just have to get it out of me. I have to write that. I have to make that. I
yes,
have to start this business, or I have to start this group, like, because it's just in me. I just got to do it. And
yeah,
I guess,
yeah.
I don't know. I guess, that is for my dad.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because like I said, I never knew um, because my family um, it's blue collar. And I always had a white collar mentality for whatever reason. Didn't want to work with my hands. I was like, I don't want to lift big bales of hay all day, man. I don't want to do that.
Me neither. None of us either. I mean, we all have done our share, but yeah, once
Yeah.
we got out of it, we did not go back.
Yeah, I was like, nah, I'm not, that's not me.
Mhm.
So that's, for whatever reason, I thank God for it. I mean, I thank God for it. And I'm glad that God kept tapping me on the shoulder to use it because, I could be, there ain't no telling. And I'm glad I can't tell. So
Right, right. I'm glad he finally turned you around because I was like, okay, maybe this one. I'm like, we're gonna get turned around. I'm like, don't tell me he's still out there doing stuff.
part about it is my mom said the same thing. She was like, when is he gonna get his life together? I'm like, Mom, I'm right here. Like she kept saying, but I'm reading the book and it's like you ain't gonna never turn around. I'm like, but Ma, you see the story. I'm pastoring now. I'm
Right.
getting ready
Yeah.
to have
I'm
my
living it.
MDiv. Everything is
Yeah.
fine, Mom.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's the good thing that the book takes you on that journey. And that's and it is doing what God wanted it to do. So
Yes. I love that for you, big brother. And I hope that we continue to grow our story as siblings. And I got to get my tail out that way, and visit
yes.
you and do something. And I need to get out of my box here and and
Yeah,
come visit. And
gotta
yeah,
come
and
to. But I
something.
and one thing I can say is that the support that you guys give. Like I know you were unable to come when I did the revival,
Yeah.
but Chauncey came. And man, it was just so awesome. So
Yeah.
and I was able to introduce him to my mother. And so
Oh,
all
I
those
never
things were
met
awesome, man.
her.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So it was
jealous. No,
great.
look, I'm jealous.
So it was awesome. But
Oh.
yes, we definitely, and we talk a lot, and so sometimes we go a couple months or whatever, but it's not
But it's all
because
good. It's
yeah,
all good.
it's
I don't
just
have no, because I'm like that with some of my friends, and they're like that with me. Like, we just know, we just pick up where we left off, and there's
yeah,
no love
absolutely.
lost or anything like that. And
And that's
that,
exactly
for
what
my
it is.
character, that's just not me. I'm not mad because you ain't talked to me this week and all that stuff. And we always touch base, especially on holidays and stuff. We try
Yeah.
to, and please forgive me if I ever forget. I know I forgot your birthday one time. I was just like, oh Lord, I forgot my brother's birthday. I just feel like sometimes sometimes I don't know, life just be lifing, and I just be like,
Yes,
dang it, I
yes.
got another brother.
Yeah, and it's
um,
it's that way. It's like you're
yeah,
doing so much stuff, and then you have to take time. And that's the thing that I always and I need to practice this myself is you always have to just take time out and just say, you know what, let me reach out to some people and let them know
yes, yeah.
they are on my list. So I'm starting to be and I hate using this word intentional about that.
Oh, I love using the word
Do
intentional
you?
because intentional is intentional.
It's intentional. You got to be
Because I do
intentional.
the same thing, like I got more nieces and nephew. I want to be in better contact. I want to be a better auntie. I just want to be better in all of my roles as a better sister, better mother, better daughter. And
Absolutely.
so I'm game for all of that. I no love lost, and the past we can't do nothing about, but from here forward we
Yeah,
can, and check on one
absolutely.
another and everything like
Yes,
that.
yes, yes.
So thank
We
you
just
for
got to get
coming
Chauncey to
on.
turn his phone on.
Oh Lord, I
They,
told you
hey,
gotta call
they've
the
changed. Wait,
landline.
Listen, when we that time we were all together in Grand Rapids, man,
Yeah.
and that dude pulled out that phone. That phone was taped up. It was with the
Didn't it have a
antenna on.
cool antenna?
Yeah, had the antenna on. He said, "This is what he said." He said, "Nah, because if I get a new phone, they're gonna try to change my plan."
That's true.
Like, man, this dude. So that and the funny part about it is, so I'm right between Ruben and Chauncey. So I got both of them in me. So I'll get wild like Ruben, and then I'll get conservative like Chelsea. I'll be like, nah, I ain't doing that. I'm not doing that. Then I'll be like, okay, let's go ahead and do it. So it's crazy because I teeter between the both of them. Like, nah, I ain't paying no, I'm not changing my plan.
Yeah.
So I was cracking up.
Me
And
too.
then like that at that moment, it was funny because Chauncey had lost his hair. I mean, not Chauncey. Ruben had lost his hair. I was losing mine, and Chauncey had a head full of hair.
And he wear his hair just like Dad wore his hair the last 20 years of his life. He just had a little afro, and that's how he keeps it. He keeping his hair.
And I showed my mom the picture, and she was like, "Y'all look like quadruplets."
I love it. I mean, it's funny, but I love how our genes are strong. And I'm not gonna lie. I think it was Kennedy. I don't know. But I was I don't know if I was scrolling. For some reason, I saw a picture of you and her, and I was like, when did I take that picture with him? And I was like, that ain't me.
I'm gonna tell you who it is. It's Sheridan.
Sheridan, yes, because I was like, that ain't me. That's his daughter.
Yes, Sheridan. I sent picture that you sent when you sent me a picture of you. I sent it to Sheridan, and I was like, man, this. I said, this is your auntie. And she was like, she thought it was her. She was like, Dad, where'd you get this picture? Like, she didn't know she took it. She's like, I said, man, that's your auntie. Because they remember you, but they don't, because it's, they were young.
Yeah, they were young,
like 15, 16 or something.
Right, yeah.
So
wait till they see Brooke.
They really don't.
They wait till they see Brooke and Tori. They just light-skinned versions.
Right. Oh my gosh. It was crazy.
People used to think they were my kids because I used to have them all the time. But yes. Yeah, that's why I'm just like, oh man, like we gotta stay. Because like think about how we feel looking back on all the secrets that they kept from us. I don't really want to go forward and I never knew, my niece and nephew that, never knew my brother. I would not want to leave this earth without and knowing what I know now. Like, that's not my goal. And my kids too. That's another story. You can't make kids do stuff, but I can do what I can.
Absolutely. And like I said, we've always like that time we did the family Zoom. What was that? Thanksgiving? That one Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, during during the pandemic?
Yeah, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, what was that? 21, 22, something like that.
Yeah.
And we got to see, people it was funny because not Callie. What's Ruben's youngest daughter?
Cora.
So she was looking like, who is this dude on the call?
Yeah.
Like, who is this guy? And then, and it made me feel good when was it Victoria that was on the line?
Yeah, Victoria's the oldest.
Like, nah, she's not wondering that because you look just like Dad.
Yeah. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode of PS10 Radio. This was personal, y'all, and it was a long time coming, but I love doing it. I enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed it too. As always, be the best you that you can be, one positive step at a time. Peace.